Hey everyone, welcome back to the Essentials channel. Today we'll be talking about Pinery Residences. Will it Huat like a pineapple or will it be a misery? So as always, really grateful to all my audiences out there for spending hours and hours watching my videos and doing the analysis with me. Again, a lot of you have reached out to me and I'm like a broken recorder right now. Please feel free to do so, especially in today's final window of the market where we can capitalize on the GFA advantages, but most importantly with very clear direction of the market. So I hope you have enjoyed all my insights and analysis so far. Feel free to reach out to me so that I can connect the dots to your respective scenario. Whether should you be getting a new launch or should you be getting a resale, and how do we actually maximize your capital appreciation that maximizes your options in the future. Most importantly, it is all about the building capital purpose. So with that in mind, how do we ensure the clearest exit strategy so that you can open up even more options for your future? Otherwise, remember to like, share and subscribe to keep the YouTube algorithm going as we continue staying motivated, creating more unique insights for you. So without further ado, as always, this is how we will proceed with our project review. Will it be a pineapple Huat or will it be in misery? First of all, we'll run through the rapid fire information, followed by the site plan and floor plan analysis, followed by why I would not buy Pinery Residences, why I will buy Pinery Residences, and of course the final verdict to handle any objections, and will it be an abundance of appreciation or just puts you in a misery. So without further ado, these are the artist's impression of Pinery Residences. Alright, so as you can see, based on the artist's impression, Huat and Sunway MCL has always been focusing on livability as its main focus. The emphasis on landscaping, good layouts, squarish layouts, livability, and most importantly, greenery and environment has always been their main focus whenever they are looking for lands. Alright, so for Pinery, it's definitely no different. If you recall, Huat, they are the developers of Key Residences, which is in Sunset Way, surrounded by greenery, despite it being a bit ulu. But again, look at the profitability today of Key Residences. Their 3 bedrooms minimally make about 500k, with the 4 bedrooms crossing about 600 to 700k within a 3-year mark. The next of their development will be of course Continuum, and I believe that itself, they were the ones who actually bought over the Tiam Siu lands to form that 2 aisles of lands that form Continuum with an iconic bridge that links these 2 sites together while maintaining the freehold status. So you can see from this developer, it is all about landscaping, all about livability, all about very nicely planned facilities as well as landscaping that ensures good block-to-block distance, maintaining the livability as well as the privacy of their residents. You can see the theme and similarities across all these projects, and Pinery Residences is no different from the rest. Right, so now let's hit into the rapid fire information. First of all, it is the commercial podium with supermarket, food court, early childhood development center with 6 blocks of 14-story residential flats. Total number of units, 588 residential units. The project address is 91 Tampines Street 94 for the commercial portion. For the residential portion is 920 to 932 Bedok Reservoir Road. Total number of commercial units, we have about 60 units of restaurant and retail, inclusive of a supermarket, food court and a childcare center. Total land size is about 23,512 square meters, about half the size of Parktown Residences. Plot ratio 2.63, residential GFA of 50,684 square meters with a balcony GFA of 3,547.88 square meters and the indoor recreational space of 355 square meters. Alright, commercial GFA, we will have about 11,300 square meters comprising of restaurant and retail, supermarket, childcare center, as well as ORA. Alright, construction method will be the PPVC, meaning to say you can't hack the walls. Tenure of land will be of course 99 years from 7 January 2025 with a total residential car park of 474 car park lots, despite it being integrated to the MRT station, and total number of commercial car park lots, a separate one of 164 units, which is a good sign so that you maintain the privacy of your own residential portion. Alright, so now we move on to a quick master plan analysis. Actually, this is an area that I'm fairly familiar with. Why? Is because I started my real estate career doing quite a fair bit of rentals along the Bedok Reservoir Road, so mainly at waterfront aisles, waterfront waves, and I was always a fan of this area because of the high livability factors. You will see that based on the master plan itself, there are actually multiple blue color sites that surround these areas. First, we have this Bedok Reservoir Road where the HDB flats are, commercial and residential portion of things. Here, we have the market and hawker center, another mixed use, commercial and residential. Just behind here at Bedok New Town itself, this itself is also another commercial and residential. Alright, and here, another Bedok New Town where you get all your eateries as well as a little hub here. But you will realize that there's many multiple blue sites here, creating multiple hubs that caters to the high population within this area. The amenities such as all your mama shops, your convenience stores, as well as your food courts, your food centers. But there isn't one that is is a big scale shopping mall, or at least something that allows people to get their amenities or their conveniences, so on and so forth. And if you look at this within like this 100 meter to 200 meters of radius, we are in need of a mall, and that's exactly where Pinery actually comes in. At the Tampines New Town area, you will see like Tampines Round Market and Food Centre, and that's the thing that you're missing down here. You got so many hubs and food centres, but you just don't have a shopping mall to really anchor the entire population. And that's exactly what this mixed residential or integrated development is here for. And that itself forms the hub and the township, and basically just by owning Pinery Residences, you'll be in the heart of the transformation of this Tampines West, but most importantly to cater to the Bedok Reservoir's population. Now we move on to the unit mix. You can see from here, for the 2 bedrooms, you have 120 units at 624 square feet, 24 units of 2 bedrooms at 635 square feet, 36 units of 2 bedrooms at 667, followed by a 2 bedroom plus study at 72 units at 700 square feet. Total number, 43% of the entire development comprises of the 2 bedrooms. There is no 1 bedrooms in this entire development, which is good and in line with the policies of average sizing 70 to 85 square meters, as well as the minimum 20% dwelling units for a project. So now we move on to the 3 bedrooms, where we have 48 units of 807 square feet, another 24 units of 861 square feet, another 24 units of 872 square feet, the 3 bedroom plus bomb shelter, 24 units at 990 square feet, 12 units at 1012 square feet, 12 units at 1023 square feet. Finally, with the 3 bedroom plus bomb shelter plus study, is 60 units at 1055 square feet, total comprising of 35% of 3 bedrooms. Next, we move on to the 4 bedroom plus store, which is about 24 units, 1141 square feet. 4 bedroom plus store plus study is 36 units at 1195 square feet. 4 bedroom plus bomb shelter plus study is 24 units, 1227 square feet, and another 24 units at 1238 square feet respectively, followed by another 12 units of 1389 square feet, comprising of the final 20% of the entire development. And of course, we have the 5 bedrooms of 12 units at 1475. Only 2% of the entire developments are allocated to 5 bedrooms. Total 588 units. As what I've always mentioned in my previous videos before, having a unit distribution like this is actually very comforting, especially knowing that it is in the Tampines West hub. It is going to be forming the hub there. Then naturally, it is to cater to the homestay demand as well as the high population of upgraders within the Tampines area. Alright, usually last time in the past when we see integrated developments like that, because it is an integrated development, then naturally you will be attracting a lot of investors. I think the government vision has changed so far. Once they do an integrated development, they want the residents and families to be enjoying the kind of convenience rather than just rental tenants or investors that take up all the smaller unit types. This time around, because of income aligning with housing prices, it ensures that people are able to afford this need. If your need as a family is to be in a very convenient location, linked to the MRT as well as shopping centres and childcare, then naturally this meets the needs. The government has already put in place income policies and robust cooling measure to ensure that the residents as well as families are able to afford it as long as their income is kept in check as well as the housing prices align. So with that in mind, that's why right now you see the unit distribution and all the URA policies working hand in hand together to ensure that people are able to afford this need. That's why now the integrated developments are catered to family needs rather than just investors, unlike the past. So now we move on to the site plan analysis. It's split into the 3 zones: the Vitality Sanctuary, the Play Cove, the Family Oasis. So as always, based on the government vision of buying property as a need, who are the ones that we should be targeting? Families. And that is why the developers are very much in line with the government's vision, ensuring that all the facilities, the site plan resonates with how families would want to be living their family communal activities as well as lifestyle. The Vitality Sanctuary is of course where the gym is, the clubhouse is, so on and so forth, followed by the Play Cove, which is where the playground is and for your kids to run around, the lawn area and all, and then followed by the Family Oasis where you swim together, walk around together, carry out your family activities together. Alright, so what is comprises of the Family Oasis? We can see from there, that's where your function room is, your games lounge, your private dining lounge, your pool deck, your outdoor shower, basically everything that you do as a collective family node. Next, the Vitality Sanctuary is where you instill vitality into your lives and as well as keeping healthy. Alright, so that's where your gym is, your spa is, your 50-meter lap pool, your pool deck, your hydrotherapy pool, everything that has got to do with vitality and vigor, it's there. Alright, so that's how they segmentize their site plan. Followed by the Play Cove, you got your multi-purpose court, your kids playground, your barbecue pit, your discovery garden, your herb garden, your rest deck cove, everything that has got to do with play will be naturally there. So very clearly defined structure as well as site plan, and this is how it would look like with the blocks. You have block 930 and 932 with stacks 35 to 42 facing Tampines Avenue 1, alright, which is also the HDB facing. You have blocks 928 and 926 from stack 30 to stack 19 facing the 50-meter lap pool, right, with a good block to block distance between 930 and 932. Next, we have block 922 and 924, stacks 5 to stack 12 faces the Tampines Street 94 with stacks 6, 7, 1, 2, 9, 10, 11 facing the internal pool, which is the Family Oasis area. All are clearly defined, right? Each one are point blocks, getting reasonably good views. You will realize the good block-to-block distance within each other, so to ensure good privacy. But then again, just by looking at the site plan, it clearly adheres to the URA policy changes of average sizing 70 to 85 square meters, and that's why with that same land plot size of this much will only allow you to include about 5 blocks. The maximum number of units is there. Followed by the minimum dwelling units of 20%. These two policies work hand in hand together to ensure clearly defined step cuts as well as lower density to enhance livability. And that is why you get good block-to-block distance, each facing a different theme as allocated by the developer based on the site plan. All of them get reasonably good views. If you're not getting a pool view, you're getting some sort of landscaping or water feature view. Like Stack 28, you have a clear landscaping from the tennis court to the play cove. The play cove, exactly that's where all the kids will be playing. They'll be screaming their heads off, but because it is in the secluded part of the entire landscape, tucked in one little corner on the left, and that is where it minimizes the noise level for all blocks there, enhancing livability again. So like what I always say, Huat always ensures very strong livability factors. They enhance it by clear planning of the site plan, making sure that whatever that affects livability, privacy, such as noise level and everything, they will tuck it to one corner to ensure that you enhance your livability in the entire development. Alright, so of course here, based on a more detailed breakdown of the entire site plan, this is the block-to-block distance. Anything that is more than 20 meters to 30 meters is already very livable. You already find it quite hard to look into your neighbor's house, so on and so forth. So this ensures a lot more privacy. I think some things that to take note will be probably between block 928 and 922. 928 is actually, I would consider, one of the premium point block that you can consider because of its far block-to-block distance, as well as overlooking the play cove area, which enhances a lot of greenery and unblocked views that you can capitalize on. That's why you have stacks 28, 27, 26, 25 capitalizing on all the greenery views, the landscape views, as well as the far block-to-block distance of more than 46 meters. I think you can see from here how the developer has actually structured the site plan with livability in mind. Then again, before we wrap up the site plan, here is a bird's eye view of the entire building structure with all the facilities inside. A 3D rendering of how your site plan will actually look like with all the external buildings in its place. As you can see, with all the URA policies improvement, it enhances livability. Don't you realize that actually all of them get point blocks with good wall block-to-block distance? What does point blocks actually mean? Point blocks actually means that everybody gets reasonably good views. When everybody gets reasonably good views, it means better livability, it means needs are met, it means very clear exit strategy. Alright, with that in mind, that is what you'll be getting at Pinery Residences. Alright, so now we move on to the floor plan analysis. So we start off with type B1, where it's the smaller size 2-bedroom at 624 square feet. There are many stacks 1, 7, 17, 18, 26, 27, 36, 40, 41 and 44. You get a good mix down here. Some of them like stacks 36 and 41 will face Tampines Avenue 1. I think those will be the cheapest 2-bedroom of them all, followed by a more progressive pricing. Probably stacks 40 and 44 will be priced slightly higher because they still get a little bit of the road noise being closest to the main road of Tampines Avenue 1, followed by you get 17, 18 and 26, 27. These are all pool view facings. I think stacks 26 and 27 will be the most expensive 624 square feet 2-bedroom unit type because it is the one that gets the clear unblocked view of the play cove area before it extends out to further views and scenery behind. Stacks 1 and 7 as well as 17 and 18 will likely be costing similar because they actually just look into a similar landscaping view depending on which zones you are in, that's all. Alright, so if we look at the floor plan itself, it is a standard dumbbell layout that Huat always creates. It's their signature layout type where you enter from the main entrance, you get your kitchen aisles, you get your dining, living, as well as the 2 bedrooms on the left and right side with the bathrooms running in parallel to it. All of master bedrooms can fit a king size plus 2 side tables. That's how big your master bedroom will be. It is a trademark of Huat to actually provide a store space for the smaller units. So as we can see from here, right, this is the store provision. So if you look at the likes of Continuum, there will always be this small square area of about 2 square meters to 3 square meters where you can actually build cabinet space and store all your barang. They understand the issue of small units is they tend to not have enough storage space. They try to carve out whatever storage space that they can to cater to family needs as well. So we move on to type B2. It is another 2-bedroom layout, which is a 635 square feet 2-bedroom layout. These are mainly stacks 29 and 20. Right, mind you, for stacks 29 and 20, these 2 units actually look out to the right side of things. Unlike the conventional units that we have in the entire site plan where they are either north or south facing, this one actually happens to be east and west facing. Alright, so that's why you get this very awkward layout, and fortunately it is only 2 stacks there that come with this layout. Why I say this is because as you enter the main entrance, you are greeted by your DB box, your washer dryer area and a little store space as what we have mentioned before, followed by this L-shaped galley kitchen that eats into your dining area and living. Basically there's an overlapping classification of space where the dining area is in the kitchen area itself. So this is something that I always highlight to to all my consumers and friends out there, this may be a detrimental layout type because whenever there is an overlapping classification of space, it also means that the developer is just trying to squeeze in as much as he can, and I would think that this itself will affect the exit strategy in future because it does not cater to the family needs, or at least a couple need, or a 2-bedroom buyer needs. Alright, of course you get very sizable master bedroom with a master bath, and then a second bathroom with the second bedroom. If you are looking to do like a dual key concept, I think this is quite ideal. Alright, with the kitchen in the center, you got to be a little bit more creative with this layout, but otherwise to have this overlapping classification is a big red flag down here for me. So this is a layout that I will probably try to avoid unless my balloting number is not so good and I'm looking to increase my yield. I may want to use this and be creative with the space a little bit to enhance my rental yield by splitting this into a dual key concept. Then again, lucky there's only 2 stacks of this, limiting the number of units that is based on this classification wouldn't dilute the price so much. Now we move on to type B3, 667 square feet. These are mini stacks 4, 10 and 13. Stack 4 will face the road and the opposite HDB building. Stack 13 will actually face the park of the HDB estate, and then of course stack 10 will face the Family Oasis area where your pools are at. Then likelihood, if you ask me, stack 4 will be the cheapest of this type, followed by stack 13 which faces the park, and then followed by stack 10 which gets you the pool view. We move on to type B4, which is the show unit, a 700 square feet. These are mainly in blocks 930 and 932 with stacks 32, 33, 37, 45, 48 and 49. Stack 32, 33 and 45 will likely cost similar price range, having the pool view premium, followed by stacks 37, 48 and 49 will probably be the cheapest amongst these layout types because it's facing the road. As we enter from the main entrance, you are greeted by this L-shaped kitchen on the right and closable, so that's a plus point for this kind of layouts. As we move in, we get to see the living room and the dining area. You can fit in a 6-seater dining set, followed by the master bedroom with the master bath on the left, second bedroom with the study on the right with the bathroom. This is similar to what we are getting at Continuum. It is an improvement, likelihood because of the GFA harmonization, they are able to give you a more efficient layout with an enclosable kitchen, a designated kitchen space on the bottom right corner of the entire layout. Otherwise at Continuum itself, you will see that instead of the store and washer dryer area where the L-shaped kitchen is, but otherwise everything else from the master bedroom, living room, bedroom 2 and study would actually be similar to what Continuum layout is like. So for this layout, it actually gives you quite a bit of customization. Now we move on to type C1, which is the 3-bedroom type. This itself is a 807 square feet. They are mainly in stack 14, 22, 31 and 23. Block 928 and 926. Both facing the pool view area and internal landscaping. As you enter the main entrance, you are greeted by the enclosable kitchen, followed by the dining with the living, bedroom 3 on the left, bedroom 2 and master bedroom on the right with the toilets running in parallel to it. It is exactly as efficient as it can get because they combine the usual traditional layout with a dumbbell layout concept to get you this to minimize the corridor space and maximize the efficiency of the internal space. Thank God for GFA harmonization. That's why they are able to give you a livable 3-bedroom at 807 square feet, dropping the quantum totally. Next, we have the type C2, which is your traditional 3-bedroom layout type. It is 861 square feet. As we enter the main entrance, you are greeted by the dining, the kitchen area, the enclosed kitchen, living, balcony, 3 bedrooms on the left with the toilets running in parallel to the bedrooms. Alright, this one itself, they are all mainly corner units of block 924 and 928, stack 9 and stack 25 respectively. They all face the landscaping with block 25 having a wider block to block distance as compared to stack 9. Then again, they all belong to the Family Oasis zone. Again, type C2, you will realize that again, it is the trademark of Huat to provide a store area. So they also understand that 3-bedroom compact naturally has a bigger family, a bigger member count. Store area is very important. You will see the store provision just at the dining area. Very smart. Next, we have type C3, 872 square feet. They are mainly in block 930 and 932, stack 39 and stack 47. Stack 47 faces Tampines Avenue 1, stack 39 faces the pool view and the internal landscape view. As we enter from the main entrance, you are greeted by a slightly longer foyer area, which is where the store provision is. Dining area, living, followed by a similar allocation of space as compared to what type C2 was. So the difference in 10 square feet difference or 9 square feet difference is actually in the foyer area itself. Next, we move on to type C4, which is the corner units of block 930 and 932. Stack 38 faces Tampines Avenue 1. Stack 46 faces the landscape views as well. This is the 990 square feet one. As you enter from the main entrance, you are greeted by this enclosed L-shaped kitchen with the utility toilet as well as the bomb shelter. And as we proceed on, we get the living and dining with the 3 bedrooms running in parallel to the toilets. If you ask me, there's a little bit of wastage of space because of the allocation of the bomb shelter that forms part of the corridor space. That itself already creates a little bit of space wastage, but then again, this is a 990 square feet unit. I believe all the bedrooms will be quite spacious, as well as the living room will be at least about 3 meters wide. Next, we move on to type C5, which is the 1012 square feet unit. There's only one stack here, which is stack 42, which is the corner unit of block 932 facing Tampines Avenue 1. As we enter the main entrance, you get a similar L-shaped kitchen with the utility toilet and bomb shelter. Everything else is pretty much similar in the living room, bedroom 2 and bedroom 3, just that for the master bedroom, instead of running in parallel as bedroom 2 and bedroom 3, this one cascades itself downwards to form a slightly bigger master, as well as cut short the corridor space. Otherwise, for the previous type C4 at 990 square feet, you will realize that the corridor space is very long. Difference in space is probably at the front part of foyer, alright, and that's where the difference comes in. For type C6, 1023 square feet, which is only one stack, is stack 34 in block 930. This is similar to what we have at type C4, just that you have a slightly longer foyer space. Next, we have type C7, D7, all right, which is 1055 square feet. These are mainly in blocks 924, 928, 926, 932, and 930. Every block except 922 has a corner unit of this unit type. 1055 square feet, mainly in stacks 12, 19, 28, 35, and 43. As we enter from the main entrance, we get your kitchen area, your WC, your bomb shelter, living, dining, with all 3 bedrooms running on the left, running in parallel to the bomb shelter, bathroom 2, as well as master bath. Difference here is whether your master bedroom, would you want to have an extra study area or open it up to form a lounge area or walk-in wardrobe. Honestly, if you ask me, to put a study there kind of like defeats the purpose. Again, an overlapping classification of space, which I believe Huat could have done better. They probably should have allocated an actual study space, maybe in a living room area. For this itself, it's a bit in an awkward positioning because first of all, you got a pillar there that separates your master bedroom between the master and the study. Again, a dotted line there to tell you that whether you want to knock it down or not to form a bigger master. But honestly, is it a very functional space? Not exactly. And then they push this classification to a 3+ study. Next, we have the 1141 Type D1. As we enter from the main entrance, similarly, instead of a bomb shelter, you have a storeroom area, a flexi storeroom which can be hacked. You get a place where you can fit in an 8-seater dining set with the living room, portrait layout, followed by the 3 bedrooms running in parallel to the toilets and a master bedroom at the end. So this is just an expansion of the 3-bedroom layout. You realize they run a consistent template for the 3 and 4 bedrooms. They are just adding extra bedroom spaces or maybe giving you a slightly bigger living room, but all their space allocation and positioning are in similar locations and placements. Instead of a bomb shelter, you are just given a store area which forms up as a flexible area. If you want to have a bigger dining area or allocate a study area, then you can actually turn that ST2 space into a study, a storeroom, or for domestic helpers, utilities room. To me, I feel this 1141 square feet 4-bedroom is the kind of unit type that only emerged after the implementation of GFA harmonization, and that itself fills up the price void because in general, a 4-bedroom would be about 1,003 to 1,004 square feet previously, but because of this GFA harmonization, a new unit type has emerged, and this unit type actually fills the price void of the market. So now we have Type D2, which is in blocks 922, 924, and 926, 3, 8, and 16. They are 1195 square feet, 4 bedrooms as well. As we enter from the main entrance, you get greeted with your kitchen on the left, WC, and then of course your flexible store area again. Can fit in an 8-seater dining set. Again, the space right now gives you an extension, the study area, whether you want to make your living room wider or smaller. Then again, it connects to the wall-to-wall of the balcony area. 3 bedrooms on the left with the 4th bedroom cascading against the bedroom 2 to reduce the corridor space with the bathrooms running in parallel to the bedrooms. This one reminds me of one layout, which is Bloomsbury Residences itself. Bloomsbury Residences, the 3-bedroom plus flexi area. This is exactly how it looks like. It can fit in an 8-seater dining set and then a study or flexible space which you can knock down to enhance the living room space. Else, you can have a designated study space to cater to your own family or your kids' needs of a study area or your own needs of a study area. Alright, so all the views here are all generally quite good views, with the stacks 3 and 8 facing the Tampines Street 94. Stacks 8 will probably get the park connector view, and then stack 16 will be the pool view. Likely the stack 16 will cost the highest. Alright, so next we have Type D3, which is in stacks 30, 21, and 12. So you can see from here, 21 will face the pool view, 12 will face the park connector, 30 will face the opposite block of 930 with kind of the most narrowest block-to-block distance. And then as we enter from the main entrance, you get a slightly longer foyer area, thus the additional size. Kitchen, bomb shelter, utility. The difference is between the store and the bomb shelter in its place. And then followed by the usual flexible study area, and then all the 3 bedrooms with the 4 bedrooms cascading against the 2nd bedroom. Kind of like a mirror image, just with a longer foyer area and a bigger store area. So then we move on to Type D4. We have stacks 24 and 6. 24 faces the pool, stack 6 faces the landscaping as well. Alright, this is exactly similar to Type D3, just that you have a longer foyer area. Next we move on to Type D5, which is 1389 square feet, the largest 4-bedroom type. As we enter from the main entrance, you are greeted by the dining area with a dry kitchen area, followed by the wet kitchen, which has a similar layout and structure and positioning as the rest of all the other layouts. You got your living and as well as the flexible study area, and then you can enhance to form a landscape layout, so on and so forth. Otherwise, the other 4 bedrooms on the right side, this time around you have a Jack and Jill toilet that connects between bedroom 3 and junior master, and then bedroom 4 cascading against junior master, and then you have the master bedroom which has its walk-in wardrobe before we actually go for your master bath. Alright, so this layout 1389 I think is very ideal. There's another similar layout like this in Canberra Crescent Residences, where naturally they allow you to put the dining area and then followed by a designated living, and if you ever wanted to expand the area, you can turn this from a portrait layout to a landscaping layout for your living area, maximizing your good wall-to-wall distance. What I really love about this layout is the walk-in wardrobe and the kind of huge master bedroom that really greatly enhances the livability. Very nice. You can put in a massage chair or a dressing table along the walls of the master bedroom before you head into your walk-in wardrobe. Very beautiful 1389 square feet 4-bedroom, which I believe will be the first one to sell out in Pinery Residences. Next, we have the 1475 square feet, which is the 5 bedrooms. As we enter the main entrance, you are greeted by a much larger wet kitchen, a dry kitchen area, which of course forms the feature wall of your living area. Alright, and then of course you can fit in an 8-seater dining set. Instead of using the vertical space, you now can use horizontal space because of its good wall-to-wall distance. And then you get your living area with the 4 bedrooms running in parallel to the toilets with the junior master cascading against the bedroom tree. This time around, the junior master itself does not have a shared toilet. It actually has a designated junior master toilet for the junior master bedroom. Similarly, like the 4 bedrooms, the master bedroom forms a similar structure and layout. No change in space, efficient, no wastage of space for the entire floor plan. This itself is in block 922, stack 2, facing the Family Oasis area, which is the pool view. So now let's move on to why I will not buy Pinery Residences. Number 1, no privacy. As always, based on the traditional mindset, it is always a little bit more hustle and bustle compared to pure residential developments. You get public footfall coming into your development, and it is hard to manage the security in that sense because sometimes you will get random people walking around your premises, you get maybe intruders possibly walking into your development just because they created certain excuses to bypass the security guards and so on and so forth. And especially, I'm going to give you another example like Punggol Watertown. The side gate actually connects directly to the 3rd level or 2nd level of the shopping center component, and sometimes you would actually see public following the residents tapping in of the side gate and following in into the premises itself. So definitely you will get a little bit of that kind of scenario happening, and that itself would actually bring down the privacy of the entire development. And also based on the privacy issue, you will get a lot more hustle and bustle based on the public footfall coming into the development. After a long days of work, you would hope that you come back to very quiet and tranquil development where families enjoy their peace and quiet with their own kids. But for this development itself, because it's an integrated status, when you are coming back home, you will definitely receive a lot more traffic. You got more cars coming into your development because if it is dinner time, that is exactly where everybody will be conjugating at your development to have their dinner at the restaurant, so on and so forth. So you come back to a very chaotic energy because of that kind of traffic, that kind of public footfall that actually comes into this development. So it has its pros and cons of staying in an integrated development, but for the disadvantage itself, you will get a lot more public disturbances, noise, crowd and footfall that will disrupt your peace and tranquil, especially after a long days of hard work. Whether is it on foot, on the MRT, or if not, it's cars itself, you will get all these disturbances from all these 3 different aspects coming in at the same time, especially at the peak hour of dinner. Now we move on to the second pointer, integrated developments track record. So if we look at the integrated developments track record, generally because of this status, you tend to pay a premium of about 10 to 20%. So we're going to use a few examples in the respective regions. In the Northeast region, we had Sengkang Grand versus Riverfront Residences, and then of course in the Central Northeast region, which is your Bidadari Estate, you have Park Colonial versus Woodley Residences. So we start off with the Sengkang Grand Residences first. Here we have the profitability chart from the highest to the lowest. So we go for the highest ones anyway. These are the ones that actually made very good profits. Most of them were bought during 2019 and then sold between 2024 to 2025. You will realize that the average 3-bedroom profitability is about 360k to about 470k, within this range of 360k to 470k within the same time frame. They bought in at about 1700 PSF and exited at about 2000 to 2200 PSF. Of course, you got the 4 bedrooms making the most profit of 577k, entering in 2021 at 1662 PSF and then exiting in 30th December 2024 at 2102 PSF, gaining a quantum of 577k. Now you will see these numbers transforming the minute I click on Riverfront Residences. Within the same time frame, you are offered a choice. With the same budget, should you be buying Riverfront Residences, a 4-bedder, or a 3-bedroom at Sengkang Grand Residences? So if you look at the Sengkang Grand Residences profitability, like what I mentioned just now, on average the 3 bedrooms will have cost about 1.786 mil to about 1.8 mil each, thereabouts, or averaging a PSF of 1650 to about 1700 and even 1800 PSF entry price. So we compare apple to Riverfront Residences, where we check on their profitability as well. So we can see within the same time frame of 2019 to 2021, on average the 3 bedrooms would have been asking about 1200 to 1300 PSF, and they made a profit of generally 600 to about 700k. Alright, the 3 bedrooms generally they increased by about 621 PSF, a lot more. So as mentioned just now, for a 3 bedroom at Sengkang Grand, you will be paying about 1.7 mil to about 1.8 mil. Similarly, a 1.7 mil to 1.8 mil will be able to buy a 4 bedroom at Riverfront Residences within the same time frame. Again, classification matters. With the same budget, should you buy a 3 bedroom or should you buy a 4 bedroom? Because of the premium of an integrated development, you decide to go for a 3 bedroom, 1.7 to 1.8 mil at Sengkang Grand Residences, and you only made about 400k thereabouts. Just by upgrading the classification to a 4 bedroom, with the same budget, you can get a 4 bedroom at Riverfront Residences at about 1.87 mil. For 4 bedroom, 1485 square feet, bought in 2018 and sold eventually in November 2025, will bring you a whopping profit of 930k, a whopping difference of about more than $500,000. That itself already speaks about the entry price. Should you be using the same price and the same price quantum to go for a 3 bedroom premium integrated development status, or should you be going for pure residential development by dropping the entry price and getting a higher classification to a 4 bedrooms? I think the answer speaks for itself. Now we move on to a more centralized location. Similarly, it is an integrated development versus a pure residential development. We have Woodley Residence versus Park Colonial, which everybody knows they are directly opposite each other. Now, if we look at the integrated development, which is the Woodley Residence, we have the average 3-bedroom at 958 square feet, earning about 600-ish K, entering at about 1,800 to about 2,000 per square foot depending on the facing. Eventually, they exited at about 2.5 to 2.6 per square foot. Sounds reasonable, very profitable, 600K on average. Now, with the same amount of pricing and quantum, you will realize that the 958 square feet 3-bedroom compact at Woodleigh Residences will range about 1.85 mil to about 2 million. Some very fortunate, they get it at 1.796 mil, which is a one price promo that Woodleigh Residence was giving previously. Within the same quantum, just opposite, it becomes a pure residential development, which is Park Colonial. You get a 1023 to 1066 3-bedroom premium. You raise the classification. That itself, you will realize that because of this raise in classification, it meets the family needs even more. They actually enjoy a whooping 960K of profits. Some raising a little bit more will be a 4-bedroom earning more than 1 mil within a short span of 5 years, right? Again, this speaks very much about the integrated development track record. Because of that status, generally people drop either a classification or drop the size just to get into an integrated development status. Which one actually meets the family needs more? Bigger size or the integrated status? Of course, you may be arguing that there is a niche group, right, that will actually value that integrated development status. But in actual fact, what really meets the family needs is always about size and classification. So that's why, to form up the second point, why I will not buy Pinery Residences. The premium that is paid for an integrated development can well translate to a bigger unit classification or a bigger unit size, which actually meets the family needs even more, enhancing the exit strategy of those pure residential development. And of course, to add to the integrated developments track record, so based on the previous video that we have done before, we actually did a prorated calculation of what Pinery will be launching at. So based on Parktown's land price of 885 per square foot per plot ratio, the lowest price that it was launched at was 2146 per square foot, with an average pricing across the development at 2369 per square foot and 2605 being its peak price. Doing a prorated calculation would actually put Pinery a starting price of 2434 because of the land price of 1004 per square foot per plot ratio, with an average price of 2687 per square foot and maybe a peak price of 2008 to 2900 per square foot. So in a way, you are definitely going to be even higher than what Parktown was launching at. Definitely Parktown is slightly further away at a much bigger scale. This one is slightly closer to the city and closer to Bedok Reservoir Road, so should be in a more premium location. That also means a higher premium place on the pricing itself. We move on to point number 3. Pinery Residences is surrounded by a lot of roads, junction, and basically it's called a hub for a reason. It's basically everybody conjugates in this central location. And that's why if you look at the roads surrounding Pinery, we have Tampines Avenue 1, which is actually 8 lanes of roads. During peak hours, you can imagine the hustle and bustle of these roads and the noise and dust that it will bring. Next, we have the Bedok Reservoir Road. If you drive past there during peak hours, it's usually very jammed. And finally, you have Tampines Street 94. That's also where clusters of HDBs will be at. Everybody will be driving home or during work hours driving out. So you can imagine you are surrounded by roads and roads and roads and roads. Where is the peace and tranquility that you seek in a residential development, at least to cater to your family needs? For me, I'm somebody that actually likes peace and quiet, and to be surrounded by so many roads intercepting each other, I would actually feel very stressed out or distressed because of all this noise and disruption happening around me. Of course, fortunately, Huat always chooses very livable developments, but with this itself, it's more about the positioning of the land structure. So this is the 3 reasons why I will not buy Pinery Residence. We move on to now why I will buy Pinery Residences. The first pointer is actually the high upgrader pool. So we can see from here, based on this slide itself, Tampines, comparing to a lot of the other townships like Bedok, Jurong West, Sengkang, actually Tampines itself has a high population of 290,000 population, and that itself is the highest amongst the entire chart, as we can see from here. In fact, we can actually lump Bedok as well as Tampines together, meaning to say for this region, 274k plus 290k, we will have more than 500,000 of population just to cater to this area. And that is why you will see that the government has always been avidly pushing for the development of Tampines area, because it forms a very big region and population of the entire Singapore. And that's why we have this newspaper article down here that says that Tampines is Singapore's most well-connected regional center, says the new book on urbanization. Right, that itself actually emphasizes how much resources that the government has poured in to ensure that Tampines becomes a lot more accessible and convenient, because it is a mix of matured estate as well as new generation township where the new population and the next generation actually reside. So that itself, just like Sengkang and Punggol, the government's emphasis is to ensure connectivity, hub, ecosystem all being developed in this area. So just by looking at these numbers itself, you will know that your pool of upgraders is already there to begin with. Now the next question to ask is whether this pool of upgraders are able to afford the condominiums in this area and do that upgrading. So here we have the next slide where we actually see Tampines West itself and all the surrounding Tampines HDBs. And if you look at the prices itself, for Tampines Greenwood, a 4-room flat averages about 675k to 763k. A 5-room flat will be about 812 to 880k. Tampines Greenlace, which is slightly newer, the 4-room flat is 700k to 750, with the 5-room averaging about 800 to 910k. As we get newer, like Tampines Green Bloom, which is the remaining 94 years, meaning to say they just MOP'd. A 4-room flat will be about 738k to 780k based on the resale pricing. A 5-room flat, 960k to 980k, gonna be hitting the 1 mil mark. And that itself, just by looking at it, it would have already given them the capital to pay for your exit pricing. So we move on to, of course, Tampines West, the older HDBs, just by looking at the older HDBs like Palm Spring, Tampines View, Palm Walk, Palm Spring, as well as Polyview, their 4 rooms all averagely do about 520k to about 600k or even 685k to 690k. The 5-room flats generally, even being so old, they're already doing about 850k, 835k with the EA averaging about 1.18 mil. Alright, so we can see the older HDB flats are also providing a good support there, with the newer HDB flats providing more capital building for the HDB upgraders to be able to pay for whatever upgrade that they intend to do so in Pinery area. So it's a similar blueprint like what they are doing at the Bidadari estates, where of course you have strong HDB upgraders with strong HDB prices that will support the private condominium prices within the same ecosystem. Similarly, because of the huge sheer size of Tampines, where now it's being split into Tampines North, South, West and East and Tampines Central, that's how big actually Tampines is. You got a lot larger population with a good spread of HDB prices forming the support for the ecosystem. Alright, so to further add on to the HDB population that I just mentioned for you, don't forget actually for this area itself, Bedok, Tampines, especially for the Bedok area, it's actually a matured township with existing population in it. So given this area's transformation and rejuvenation, it being a matured estate, the population is always existing there already. Most of the time, we would usually wait for a new township to happen, new infrastructure being introduced after the announcement of a certain transformation. Once it completes, naturally infrastructure will come in, and then from there it will be an influx of new population. But otherwise, for Pinery Residences itself and this particular area, it works in a way a little bit upside down. This was an existing township before, one of the oldest townships in Singapore as well, and finally a new MRT is being introduced. I mean, it being an old township would mean that the population is more or less quite used to travelling up and down. Spending millions and billions of dollars improving the transportation nodes itself is gonna make the lives of the population here a little bit better, but otherwise there is really not that much of a need to be spending so much resources on it. And usually you know that once the government introduces an MRT station there, it will not just be for this population, it is an indicator that there will be new population coming in, and thus indicating the rejuvenation of this area. So if you are still holding on to the mindset that Pinery Residences is going to be setting a new benchmark PSF in this area as compared to the surrounding developments PSF, because most of them are surrounded by older developments, then you may want to think again, because maybe this might just mark the first mover's advantage that Pinery Residences is able to offer in this heart of rejuvenation. Alright, so now we move on to the next pointer, why I will buy Pinery Residences. First of all, based on our 3-phase transformation, this phase itself is finally in its infrastructure phase. It was first announced in 2010 to 2011, with the construction starting in 2012 of February and finally completing in 2017 October. Now, cannot be the government pour billions and billions of dollars of resources into this area and the construction of the MRT just to only cater to the existing population. Now it marks the infrastructure phase. 2017 and we are in the year of 2026, meaning to say we are probably about 8 to 9 years behind time already. You will realize that once you drive down there, now you are surrounded by a lot of HDBs. I've even have some friends that have BTOs just opposite Aquarius by the park. This marks the infrastructure phase. And with infrastructure phase, that also means we need new amenities, we need new infrastructure to cater to the influx of new population, and that marks the start of the rejuvenation of this matured township. Which brings me to my next point. With new population that time, means what? Jobs must be created also. So what are the other transformations that are happening in this area that actually resulted in more job creation? So here I have the two more notable transformations, are the Paya Lebar Air Base transformation as well as the Changi Terminal 5. So we will see that actually for the Paya Lebar Air Base transformation, it is one of the most ambitious urban redevelopment projects starting from 2030. The relocation of the airbase will free up approximately 800 hectares of land, about 5 times the size of Toa Payoh. Housing and residential growth is their first pillar, which is the site is expected to yield about 150,000 to 160,000 new homes, public and private, roughly equivalent to the combined size of Punggol and Sengkang. Lifting of height restrictions. Once the airbase moves, the height limit in the surrounding towns like Hougang, Marine Parade and Punggol will also be lifted. This also allows for higher density redevelopment and taller buildings in this established area. The work-life play team to promote economic and green spaces, the area will be developed into major employment node with mixed-use districts, commercial, tech and creative quarters to bring job closer to residents. So the timeline is looking at relocation begins from 2030 onwards, initial development first half of the 2030s, likely starting from near Defu, finally with the full realization over the next 20 to 30 years. So there is one with multiple jobs created as well as new population influx, and that actually is here to support the upgrading process from the Paya Lebar Airbase site to Tampines North, West, so on and so forth. Next, we we also have the other one, which is the Changi Airport Terminal 5 development. Long-term planning, it was actually first mooted in 2013. T5 is a multi-year project spanning several government terms and scheduled to open in the mid-2030s. Massive capacity increase. T5 is designed to serve about 50 million passengers annually. This will boost Changi Airport's total processing capacity from 90 million to 140 million passengers a year. Economic impact and job creation. PM Wong actually described Terminal 5 as a bold move that will raise the demand for services and workers, creating new jobs for Singaporeans. Current economic contribution, the aviation sector currently contributes 5% to Singapore's GDP and sustains numerous good jobs. With these two transformations in mind, it also translates to one thing. Definitely a lot more jobs is going to be created. Definitely there is going to be even more tenant pool within this area. And of course, most importantly, if you happen to have a job there, means you will also be relocating to Tampines as a home itself. And that is where new families will set up their new nucleus in that area as well. So with that in mind, that also means we need new homes as well. And that's why coming in here, you will realize there's insufficient amenities to support the township, but there is actually not one full-fledged mall in this entire area. Otherwise, they have to go to Pasir Ris itself, else Bedok Residences. But you will realize that there is a void area in between these areas. That is where Tampines West Pinery Residences will actually fill this void. Now we move on to price sustainability and how does Pinery Residence going to compare to the existing integrated developments or mixed developments as well. So here I have a few examples for you, and of course we can check out a graph down here where we see a few more notable integrated developments such as North Park Residences, Watertown, Bedok Residences and Pasir Ris 8. So Watertown itself, the land was actually sold in 2011, and of course the North Park Residences was in 2015, Bedok Residences was in 2011 and Pasir Ris 8 is in 2021, being the newest in amongst all the integrated developments. Based on the track record you can see from the graphs here, generally they start off a bit slower between the earlier years, and then finally in between they will get their stage up after the 5th to 6th years where we finally experience a little bit of growth, and then they stagnate along the way between the years of 2017 to probably about 2021, and finally from 2021 onwards they all experience an upward trend of 1,300 to about 1,008 to even 1,900 per square foot. We have Pasir Ris 8 coming in after the COVID situation in 2021, Q2 2021, where we see prices go from 1,600 PSF starting from to eventually hitting 1,900 to even 2,000 per square foot on the first day of the balloting. Finally, there are sub-sale units that are sold at 2,100 to even 2,200 per square foot. So how does this translate to Pinery Residences? Now, don't forget, Pinery Residences itself is actually a mall in a matured estate. Unlike other new townships such as Lentor, such as Woodleigh Residences, they didn't have an existing population to begin with. Alright, so all these where the government started the new township and they plant the integrated development as the iconic landmark to mark that start of that township. For Pinery Residences itself, the fortunate thing is the existing population is already there to begin with. Now you mark the start of the rejuvenation of the infrastructure phase, meaning to say you're probably the first mover's advantage in terms of infrastructure, because the first thing to rejuvenate a township is definitely going to be a mall, and that is what Pinery Residences is all about. So in terms of demand wise, I don't think you need to worry anymore, but because you mark the start of the infrastructure phase, then naturally the new population comes in, and that will actually provide the footfall, the traffic, and most importantly the upgraded pool. So if we were to look at the numbers here, with Punggol Watertown starting off as the iconic landmark in the Punggol transformation back then, you will realize that they had that phase of stagnation. Finally today they have reached a pricing of averagely 1,700 PSF, with 3 bedrooms hitting a price of 1,938 PSF. If we do a prorated and we prorate the Watertown from 2011 to 2026 today, as though it's sold as a brand new development, it will actually translate into 2,284 per square foot. Mind you, they don't have GFA harmonization, so we're gonna add another 7% to the PSF, and that will mark Punggol Watertown at 2,443 PSF as a resale today if it was sold as a brand new development. Next, we have Bedok Residences. The average pricing for a 3 bedroom is about 1,900-ish per square foot. If we do the same prorated calculation to be sold as a brand new development today, they would hit 2,239 per square foot, and if we do the GFA harmonization prorated calculation, they will be selling at 2,395 per square foot as a brand new development today. Next, we have North Park Residences, which is in Yishun. The land was sold a bit later at 2015. Currently, they are actually reselling at about 1,840 per square foot to 1,950 per square foot. Let's use an average of 1,930 per square foot. We do the prorated calculation and prorate it to 2026, you will realize that they are selling at 2,171 per square foot with a GFA harmonization prorated calculation of 2,322 per square foot. You will realize that all the integrated developments as a resale development today being sold as a brand new development prorated calculation is between a range of 2,322 per square foot to 2,450 per square foot. Hey, does that connect the dots for you, everyone out there? Because why? Pinery, based on our calculation using Parktown's launch price and land price, Pinery is set to be launching indicator. This one, hopefully the developers make it even more competitive when the prices are released. But based on the prorated calculation right now, based on what we have at Parktown, Parktown was actually sold at 2,146 per square foot, average of 2,369 per square foot, with the higher spectrum of 2,605 per square foot. That would translate to Pinery starting from 2,434 per square foot with an average price of 2,687 per square foot, and finally maybe the highest at 2,900 per square foot. That itself, based on the prorated calculations for existing developments like Watertown, Bedok Residences and North Park Residences, aren't they actually quite close? So to say that actually Pinery Residences is overpriced may not be actually true. It just seems overpriced to you in a perspective because you're looking at a very mature township with very old developments such as Waterfront Isle, Aquarius by the Park, Waterfront Keys that make the PSF look a bit too wide in terms of the gap. We'll get to that later. Next, we have also Pasir Ris 8. To make it even more relevant, Pasir Ris 8 is the latest development in the Far East region, an integrated development, similar classification as what Pinery Residences is. Its land was sold in 2021, finally TOPing in 2024-25. Their sub-sale or their resale is actually at 2,100 to 2,200 per square foot for the 3 bedrooms with an entire project average price of 1,974 per square foot. If we do a similar prorated calculation as what I've done just now, it will put Pasir Ris 8 at 2,264 per square foot on average if it is sold as a brand new development today. Plus the GFA harmonization of 7%, that will actually put it at 2,422 per square foot on average. Wow, hey, are we connecting the dots here again for you? There's a reason probably why Huat actually bid for the land price in that way and are preparing to be launching at about this price range of 2,434 per square foot to 2,005 per square foot. I feel that maybe for the bigger units, they may be launching at 2,3 to 2,4, and maybe for the smaller units, they want to make it more competitive and more attractive at 2,2 per square foot, alright? And that would actually place a little bit of competition and get back a little bit of the competitive advantage against existing new launches like Parktown Residences. So next, we'll be comparing to another integrated development, which is Lentor Modern. Now, mind you, Lentor Modern is actually the iconic start to the Lentor Township, where it is a mixed development with shopping mall, MRT connectivity, and the residence above, exactly similar to what Pinery Residence is going to be. And you see from there, there's a resale transaction that is transacted at 2,200 to 2,400 the minute it TOP'd, alright, based on the recent transactions. Alright, so if we do the similar prorated calculation, we will actually get 2,317 per square foot to 2,527 per square foot if Lentor Modern was sold as a brand new development today. Mind you, we haven't included the GFA harmonization effects yet. So we do the 7% prorated calculation, we will actually be getting 2,479 per square foot with a higher spectrum of 2,704 per square foot based on the recent resale transactions. Hey, all these are connecting to the dots to what Pinery is probably going to be launching at. Anyway, you'll identify a pattern amongst all of these developments. All these integrated developments have very strong price sustainability because first of all, with Watertown and Bedok Residences, they were the ones that marked the iconic start to the township in the area, and that's why they had this flattening out, stagnating period. But otherwise, with the attributes that they have and the mixed development, eventually it will appeal to the population that in the area. And once you're familiar with that particular area, you would want to upgrade within, and the only way to get even more convenient and better is to stay within the mall itself. And that's why along the way, past COVID itself, suddenly you see the sustainability of prices happening. You see Bedok Residences and Watertown inching up from 1,600 per square foot to 2,000 per square foot or 1,009 per square foot, alright, indicating that it does hedge against the lease decay as well as the test of times. Next, we have Pasir Ris 8 forming a similar attribute as what Pinery Residences is, because Pasir Ris 8 itself, the initial population is already there. So improving and rejuvenating the area's amenities such as the shopping mall will bring even more value to that township, and this was what Pasir Ris 8 was all about, and that's why you could see a price sustainability there as well. Next, Lentor Modern was a similar introduction to a new township, which is the Lentor Township. They marked the iconic start to it. They are still waiting for population influx to come in, but you can see because of that pent-up demand in that area, basically for Sembawang, Woodlands, or anybody who's staying in the north in the Yishun area, they have nowhere to upgrade to. It's been 10 to 15 years since there was a new launch. The last new launch there was actually Panorama, and of course a little bit more later will be AMO, but that probably falls under the Thomson Township already. And people who wanted to upgrade closer to city from the north region basically have nowhere to go to, so there's a pent-up demand, and Lentor itself marks the iconic start to things. And you can see with the influx of new population from the further north regions into Lentor itself, it also created more price sustainability and profitability. And that's why you can start to see the more recent developments such as Lentor Modern experiencing 300 to 400k of profits within 3 years of holding period. Next, we have Woodley Residences down here experiencing average profit of 300 to 500k within 5 years of holding period. Next, we have Pasir Ris 8, a similar development within the Pasir Ris vicinity, 300 to 500k of profits itself. Basically, these are developments such as Pasir Ris 8. I remember when they first entered at that point of time was about 1,700 to 1,800 PSF. Within the same day itself, the developer drove the prices up to about even 2,100 per square foot. Back then, it was considered very high and record breaking, but there was just this bunch of consumers that are able to accept this premium, and it's also largely got to do with the red line versus the blue line. If you always recall what I always mentioned in my previous videos, income versus property prices. Alright, the income gap versus the property prices, the positive gap is at its widest right now, meaning to say that if there is a need for all these conveniences, the consumers can actually afford it. Because of our robust income policies as well as the the cooling measures in place, it ensures that the property prices are kept in check, the affordability is kept in check. Whenever there is a family need to be, let's say, in an integrated development with all of these shopping mall in place nearby you, then definitely they will be able to afford this need and they will actually pay for it. So that is the main reason why I would say that actually buying into Pinery Residences gives you a good sustainable pricing and why I would actually go for it. Now we next compare to the resales in this area and how does it match up. So I've got quite a few resale here, these existing resales. When I first started my real estate career, I actually started my real estate career in the east as well as Waterfront Waves and Waterfront Key. So we're going to use that Waterfront series to actually make a little bit of a comparison because just down the road is actually Pinery, right? Because they are just one MRT station apart, right? Same thing, these people have always been there since 2007. They were very used to the livability of this area, the Bedok Reservoir, the park, and of course with the MRT station, it definitely made their lives a lot more convenient. But they were already used to life being like that in the past already. Definitely what they missed out on has always been the mall, because otherwise wherever they go for their grocery shopping or their usual daily needs, it will usually be those HDB town centers where you would have all your wet market, your supermarket or provisional shops below the HDB shop houses, so on and so forth, right? There isn't a full-fledged mall to be actually serving this area's population, right? So with that in mind, we start off with Waterfront Key and Waterfront Wave. Both are actually in the year 2007, the lands were sold and then they TOP along the way in 2011-12. Alright, you will see that based on the resale prices of Waterfront Waves right now, it's actually about 1,600 per square foot. We prorate it to be sold as a brand new development today, it's actually prorated to become 1,980 per square foot. And if we include the prorated calculation for a GFA harmonized development or unit, it would then be 2,118 per square foot. Next, we have Waterfront Keys. The resale transactions are actually at about average 1,713 per square foot. Prorated calculation will become 2,119 per square foot. Next, plus the GFA harmonization effects will actually be about 2,268 per square foot. Now we go to a slightly newer development, which is Waterfront Go. Their resale transactions are at 1,781 per square foot with a prorated calculation of 2,150 per square foot, and plus the GFA harmonization effect, it will actually be 2,300 per square foot. Waterfront Isles is the last or the latest addition to that Waterfront series. You will have it at 1,700 per square foot on average for the resale. We prorate it, it will be 1,912 per square foot if it's sold as a brand new development today. We do a prorated calculation for the GFA harmonization, it will actually result in a 2,046 per square foot pricing. Alright, with that in mind, we compare to Pinery's possible indicative starting of 2004. You will realize that everybody is below 20% that a usual integrated development premium will command. So usually when we talk about integrated developments, we will always make an additional 20% premium on top of it as compared to usual residential developments. You will realize that Waterfront Go, after the prorated calculation, it results in about 2,300 per square foot, which is only 4.34%, which Pinery indicative of 24 is only 4.34% higher than what Waterfront Go resale transactions are if it is sold as a brand new development today. Compared to Waterfront Key, after all the calculation is 2,268 per square foot, it is only 5.8% difference from what Pinery is going to be launching at. Same goes for Waterfront Waves, it's a bit higher, it's about 13%, followed by Waterfront Isles, which is the newest addition, is about 17%. Probably this happened to be in an era where maybe their layouts were not so effective and that's why the resale demand isn't there, or Waterfront Isle it being a bit newer and that's why the prorated gap is a little bit further away from Pinery. But all in all of their percentage is still below the 20% premium that integrated developments are supposed to be getting. Isn't this a strong enough market proposition for you to really consider of the hub? Especially you get a renewed first movers advantage that Bedok never had due to its maturity. Right, so to further wrap up this point, you will realize that all the existing integrated developments resale prices, if we prorate accordingly, they are all within same range as the launch indicative of Pinery Residences. If we compare to the resales in this area, they are all less than 20% of the supposed premium of an integrated development, marking a good market positioning that you can actually consider. So to further add on to the price sustainability, we have a new chart down here that includes Woodleigh Residences itself, which is the Woodleigh Mall. You can see from here, they also experienced a stagnation process between the years of 2021 to 2023. Of course, developer also gave a little bit of discounts along the way to attract the demand back in. Back then, people actually mentioned that Woodleigh Residences may not be such a good development because it did not sell out in the first day as well. But is it really that true? Ultimately, today they make an average profit of about 400 to 600 per square foot, with record-breaking prices hitting about 2,500 to 2,600 per square foot as well. Here we have the average pricing of Woodleigh Residences at 2,387 per square foot. If we do the prorated calculation as though Woodleigh Residences was sold as a brand new development today, the land was actually sold in 2017. We do that prorated calculation, they are actually selling at 2,625 per square foot as a brand new development today. If we do the GFA harmonization effect of that 7%, it will actually result in 2,809 per square foot for an integrated development unit in the Bidadari estate. I mean, of course, you may mention that the Bidadari estate has 1 mil HDB flats that will be able to support the price range. But then again, based on the first pointer that I just now mentioned to you, the HDB upgraders in Tampines don't fare too far off. They actually are able to hit 900k to even 950k. If we do a little bit of a buffer, can we actually say that Woodleigh Residences, maybe with the same Tampines crowd, instead of 2809 per square foot, can be about 2700-ish per square foot, which already indicates that there are people that are willing to accept and pay this kind of pricing for an integrated development. With that in mind, with Pinery's indicative of 2400 per square foot or 2434 per square foot, is there a possibility that actually we may be a little bit undervalued in that sense, given that there is already a market acceptance of about 2700 to 2800 per square foot? We prorate it against the demographics of Tampines, then you will realize that probably it drops the pricing down to about 26 to 27, which also means that Pinery is within range. Now we move on to the final verdict of Pinery Residences. With the continuous effort from the government to continue decentralizing, I think it has already been proven by market factors that decentralization was actually the right move, right? The idea is to make each township have its own ecosystem to provide sustainable pricing where the residents itself will support the pricing within. You got your HDBs climbing the social ladder, upgrading up to finally private condominiums. They can upgrade into integrated developments, so on and so forth. Societal ladder and societal upgrading is actually being made possible within the township itself. If you look at Tampines as a whole, maybe you are unable to grasp what the government is doing. But actually, if you look at Tampines, it is one of the biggest townships, in fact, the highest population in the entire Singapore, that it warrants the need to actually have Tampines North, Tampines West, and Tampines Central. In a way, you are also blinded by the word Tampines itself. Just think about Tampines West and Tampines North as each individual township. Change the names, maybe to some funny name like John or Clemenceau or something like that, and that itself will identify as an individual township on its own. Look at Pinery Residences in that perspective, and you'll be able to see the entire dynamics happening similar to how previous townships are. Alright, which brings me to my next pointer. Pinery Residences, just like every other integrated development, is suitable for retirees who want to come in here to actually live out their days and have a very good enjoyment and retirement. You have straight access to transportation node. Same for the next younger generations. The younger generations now are actually valuing convenience and accessibility a lot more than the previous generation. Maybe in the previous generation, when they first, like our parents' generation for example, they were first introduced to private condominium concept, they will want something that it is tranquil, it is private, less bustle, less hustle, and that's the main reason why I want a private condominium. If I ever wanted all the communication and interaction with different residents, I would have just stayed in my HDB flat. Alright, but times have changed again. Now, the newer generation values convenience and accessibility a lot more, and that's why probably we'll be seeing a little bit more younger gen moving into places with integrated developments such as Pinery Residence itself. Moreover, with our red line, blue line, as quoted based on our previous videos, which is the income versus the property price, now we have a very wide positive gap between our income versus our property prices. There is a need for such convenience and accessibility. The people who want this need for their families can actually pay for it. So it's a totally different dynamic as compared to how it was in the past, where the income was actually much lower than the property prices. So why am I telling you this is because times have changed. People value convenience more, people value accessibility more. People are willing to pay a little bit more premium just to get all of these things, maybe holding it a little bit longer. Comparing to this privacy issue as what we have mentioned to why I would not buy, the first objection, I would actually feel that this is something that the societal changes have happened. Gone are the days where people are actually having that stigma of being in an integrated development, indicating that they lose their privacy or there are intruders that can actually intrude into their own condo premises. Those were the things that our parents used to tell us. But right now, the stigma has actually changed along the way. It is also, we buy new developments is to cater to future consumer needs, and our future consumer needs happen to be needing this kind of convenience, especially with the emergence of more DINGs, dual income, no kids, or even with families that have kids. Then definitely, instead of traveling out to the city, Orchard Road and all, this hub itself provides everything that a family needs to have, and that is why I feel that it shouldn't be that big of an objection. Next is definitely in terms of the pricing wise. Of course, we understand that by buying a pure residential development, you do not have that integrated developments premium, such as Sengkang Grand versus Riverfront Residence for the Northeast region, and that actually affected the profitability. Because why? With the same amount of quantum, you could have gotten a much bigger classification in a pure residential development as compared to the integrated development. Alright, but then again, most of the time, buyers who choose convenience as a need are most likely to be staying in that development for a much longer time. So profit is probably not what they are looking at or focusing that much on. In fact, they probably save on different aspects of their lives, like lesser Grab deliveries, lesser money spent on transportation. Over a long period of time, these savings on convenience, Grab deliveries, as well as transportation results in the netting off of the profit that a pure residential development can give. Anyway, as long as the development doesn't lose money, they're happy. Because why? When they buy an integrated development, they know they are here to stay for a long time because all of their needs, groceries, their daily needs, essentials, and everything are already met. As long as the development don't lose money, they're probably happy. So their mindset is a little bit different, their perspectives is also a little bit different. Alright, but with that in mind, Sengkang Grand still makes a healthy profit of 300 to 400k for the 3 bedrooms. That itself has already additional bonus to these people. So we also must understand their mindset and thinking whenever consumers buy integrated development. They are here to hold for the long run because they are already rooted in this location and area. They are getting an additional convenience and accessibility that an integrated development can give. So as long and just as proven by our price sustainability pointer, integrated developments always withstand the test of times, getting even more profits as they hold longer and longer, especially with the GDP income and as well as the property prices becoming wider and wider. Now, we move on to the next concern that I understand that a lot of people will be having, because there will be a new EC that is actually coming up, which is Revel, which is exactly diagonally across Pinery Residences. First of all, if we look at the master plan down here, this is where Revel EC is at. I've actually highlighted this for you. Pinery Residences is here. You would actually think as a consumer, wow, xiao liao. If I have Revel EC down here next time, why would people go and buy my Pinery Residences where they can buy Revel EC and then they still can actually capitalize on what my Pinery Residences resale prices are going to be? First of all, if we look at the land structure itself, we have 3 red color here. Red color means what? First of all, place of worship. Second of all, civic and community institution. Third, another place of worship. Can be church, can be mosque, can be temple. This is healthcare and medical. So you got hospital, you as well have a worship and a community center probably down here. Alright, this can be, yeah, exactly, police station, fire station, prison, drug rehabilitation, courts, so on and so forth. All these still remain in the open, uncertain. Right, so if you are a Revel EC, I think with the stigma there, not everybody can accept being right beside a hospital, neither can they accept being right beside a place of worship. No offense down here, different people have different preferences. That itself creates quite a fair bit of contention for the resale buyers there. Next, it is of course the safety net of an EC. Many people will actually think that EC is a safe bet, but the whole idea of why we buy private properties today is to give you options in life, and that's what we look out for as consultants. What do I mean? Alright, so you see, EC itself, the minute you buy in, you are locked in. Locked in for the first 3 to 4 years for construction period, another 5 years for MOP. That also means 9 to 10 years of holding period. Means that you must ensure that nothing can happen to you that forces you to sell the EC. Touch wood, anything regarding your health circumstances or your job circumstances, you still have to find a way to hold on to your EC. Otherwise, if you sell your EC, don't you realize those ECs that were prematurely sold before the MOP, somehow they do not get the profits that they are supposed to be getting? Why is that so? Because when you sell an EC when it's still in its MOP period, it is still locked in the MSR framework, which actually restricts how much a person can loan, which only uses 30% of the person's income to gauge how much you can loan. And that is the main reason why you will see that ECs that are sold prematurely before MOP, they always don't get the profits that they are looking for. Don't you realize that? So why am I telling you this point? Is also because, touch wood, if anything were to happen to your life circumstances or job circumstances, you have to find a way to continue owning this EC. If not, all your profits that you were once promised would have been eroded away. And you're supposed to do that for 10 years. When we go for private properties, yeah, you may be hit with SSD, but what does SSD stand for? For the 4th year, the first year of owning, you get 16%, second year is 12%, third year of holding is 8%, 4th year of holding is 4%, and subsequently 0%. Alright, but does it mean that you have to hold all the way to sell, touch wood, if anything happens to you? Let's say you already made a profit of 30% on the development, and if touch wood, anything happens to you and you really need the money, you want to release that locked capital within the development itself, you can actually sell it on the first year without any lock-in, just pay a little bit of taxes. 30%, maybe you net off your SSD at 16%, you still get back that 14%. Alright, at least it saves your life, you get back the capital. Same, touch wood, anything happen along the next 4 years, you'll be able to do so. Or even in its 5th year, you'll be able to sell without any SSD and you'll still be able to release the capital and the locked funds. With that in mind, does that help you actually mitigate the risk that you have because of keeping your job or any life circumstances or life changes? People always think that buying an EC is safe, but have you actually ever thought about that 10 years lock-in period that you're supposed to have? That any time, the money that you locked in, you are not able to materialize the profits that you were promised unless you hold it up for the next 10 years. Is it really that safe after all? Or is having more options in life safer? Options in life meaning to say you can sell anytime. As long as you make a profit, you can decide and have the option whether you want to erode away the profit, but you can get back your locked capital. That itself is a safety net to me. And that is why for those who are comparing between Revel, EC as well as Pinery, if you have the budget to go for Pinery, you may want to consider just going for Pinery for this added option. Alright, but otherwise, based on the land structure itself, if you realize what's happening down here, I'm a little bit concerned if I'm a resale buyer in the future. If I were to choose between Pinery and Revel EC, Revel is right beside a hospital or a healthcare center, which is also right beside a worship. No judgment here or no discrimination here, definitely everybody. But I think some people, some resale buyers have different preferences. We want to have that contention to begin in the first place. Let alone you're supposed to be locked in for 10 years, ensuring that your job and life must be stable all the way. Does it give you options or not? As a consultant, it is always about options to ensure safety net, and that is probably what Pinery Residences is able to give you. Which brings us to the next point about Revel's EC possible launch price. So based on Coastal Cabana, the land price of Coastal Cabana is actually about 729 per square foot per plot ratio. They launched at 1674 per square foot with an average pricing of 1788 per square foot, with the highest transacted at 1889 per square foot. If we do a prorated basis, because the Revel Revell EC's land price is sold at 768 per square foot per plot ratio. If we use the launch price of Coastal Cabana does not have an MRT access, while actually Revell EC has the same Tampines West MRT. Right, with that in mind, if we do the prorated calculation, we would actually get Revell EC maybe at the launch price of 1763 per square foot, average of 1883 per square foot, as well as probably the highest transaction at 1990 per square foot. But is it really that possible to be that zone in terms of prorated? Because one has MRT, the other one doesn't have MRT. So if you're the developer, how would you actually be pricing it? Probably another additional 100 per square foot to 150 per square foot. That would make it about 18 to 19 per square foot starting from for Revell, and then maybe about 2000 per square foot on average for Revell, and then maybe another 2002 per square foot being the highest transaction at Revell. With that in mind, does it cut too close to Pinery's indicative starting price of about 23 to 24 per square foot? Because why? It is less than 10% difference between an EC versus an integrated development. Now, that also deserves a food for thought. Alright, then of course, as we move on, some people may be concerned about the road facing or surrounded by all the roads. I think we've seen from the likes of Reserve Residences, we've seen from the likes of Woodley Residences, we've seen the likes of so many different integrated developments. Definitely you are a hub for a reason. You have to give and take a little bit. Some sacrifices has to be made in terms of the accessibility and convenience, but otherwise I think we all can accept that having all this accessibility and convenience actually mitigate whatever road noise that you are getting, and it's all about the quality and soundproofing of the developer, which I believe Huat as well as Sunway to be able to have high quality provisions that will be able to shield off some of the noise. It is also dependent on the way they structure the site plan to ensure that you get the most peace and tranquil that a site plan or a condominium can give. And that's why you see, based on their site plan itself, they have been always very mindful in terms of their planning. They have one place which is the Family Cove area, we have the children's area that is tucked away in the far left corner, and that's why they have these few zones like the Vitality Sanctuary, the Family Oasis, as well as the Play Cove. You can see how the developer is being mindful about the site plan and the structure to minimize all the noise and ensure more livability and peace. But then again, like I said, you are already in the most convenient location or in the most convenient scenario and situation where you are at the center of the transformation. You are basically the hub itself, right? So a little bit of sacrifice is okay, but otherwise I think it's gonna ensure long-term sustainability, but most importantly, meeting the needs of your family. Alright, so I think with all the decentralization plans and the meticulous planning by the government, it is catering to a lot of different consumers' needs already. And if you want somewhere that is more tranquil and more quieter, then you choose your developments within the same area that is further away from Pinery lah. You can choose like Waterfront Isles, Waterfront Waves, all these that are slightly older, but they can offer that kind of environment and tranquility. But I believe it is also to cater to future consumer needs where they value a lot more convenience and accessibility, right? Do not fall into the trap. When give you integrated hub, you say down there surrounding very hustle and bustle, right? When give you ulu location, then you say, wow, why got no amenities and no nothing? With that in mind, it is all about depending on your preferences, but I think the government has done a very good job in creating a sustainable property market with sustainable prices. So if we look at Huat's recent track record, you will always realize that Huat is somebody that always creates very livable developments. Given the likes of Cove Regency, here is a quick site plan for you to see. I like to use Cove Regency, right? So you can see Cove Regency is an example where it is a land that was sold in 2012 and TOP in 2016. It was under Huat as well. So even back then, during the era where bay windows, planter boxes and big balconies were very, very rampant in the market back then, they still had a reputation of creating livable units and development without actually taking advantage or shortchanging consumers. So their track record actually stems all the way to 10 to 20 years ago, where they have already been creating livable layouts as well as site plans. You can see from here, this is actually the site plan itself. I mean, they could have maximized the entire land given the URA policies back then. They didn't have policies such as minimum dwelling units of 20% as well as average sizing of 70 square meters becoming 85 square meters that reduce the density of the entire development. But look at the site plan here. They each have individual point blocks that ensure everybody gets reasonably good views, even despite URA policies weren't being that defined back then. They have their clusters on the left side. I mean, you got to give it to them for maximizing the land, but otherwise most of them get reasonably good views as well without looking into other units. It's not too cramped. You still have centralized amenities and facilities, and then each block itself is a point block with only 4 units, meaning to say all 4 units are corner units. Their toilets get windows, their kitchen get windows, but most importantly, if you deep dive into their layouts, they actually get dual access front and back balconies that both sides can open up to allow wind flow. So Huat has already been giving that track record of livability since 10 to 15 years ago. This is a developer that you can really count on. Alright, so if we deep dive a little bit to a unit that I'm actually selling at Cove Regency, Alright, so here is the layout of how it actually looks like. It is a 1130 square feet. If you look at the layout itself, coming in from the main entrance, you get an enclosed kitchen with the yard all have windows. So the minute you open the kitchen sliding door as well as the yard area's window, a true wind happens. You get a reasonably sized balcony. I mean, it's a bit of an excess here, but still not as bad as how some developments are in the past in 2012. You get a nice dedicated living area, followed by the dining area, and a balcony just in front of a dining area. Again, a sliding door that you can open up. This will facilitate the true wind between the living and dining as well. How often do you get units that actually opens up front and back? This facilitates the true wind very well. And take note of the bedroom size. You know what's so beautiful about the Cove Regency bedroom size? Every bedroom can actually fit a king bed, not a queen bed. It's a king bed. You are in year 2012. You are allowed to take advantage, right? You know, the URA policies are not clearly defined. Other developers will have put in bay windows, planter boxes, additional balconies, just so that they can take advantage and pocket more profits. But this itself is already a clear indicator that Huat is ethical. Huat has a good track record. Huat itself, they pride livability even before the URA policies were clearly defined. Right now, given this day, age and era where URA policies are already clearly defined, aligned with the focus of livability, which Huat has always been doing and renowned for, isn't this a good opportunity for you to get into it where the vision of URA actually aligns with the developer itself? I hope that all these insights have given you a good understanding of Pinery Residences. Definitely, it may seem a little bit overpriced for those who haven't done their research or analysis. I hope that all of these numbers can open up a bigger perspective for you with our comparison to existing integrated developments as well as the resale developments that are surrounding Pinery Residences itself. Most importantly, Pinery Residences is a rejuvenation of the infrastructure phase in a mature estate where the population is already existing, with new population going to be coming in to sustain the prices even more. Alright, so this is a very unique opportunity and a unique scenario which a lot of the other newer townships aren't able to give, because we usually have to wait for the population to come in, mature, go through MOP before you can actually see the appreciation happening. For here, you already have existing population that have gone through MOP, have capital built, they can sustain the prices, but most importantly, you get newer population coming in, the next generation, that will further provide more demand into this area. Alright, so if you're thinking about Pinery Residences, what sort of units should you be choosing and how do we choose your units and identify the best opportunities? Remember to contact me to set up that one-to-one consultation. Otherwise, remember to like, share and subscribe so that it keeps the algorithm going, as well as me keeping me motivated to continue such in-depth research so that you get a better understanding of the market. I'll see you in the next one in the Essentials channel.